Welcome to Diary of an Ex-Ho. I'm Cheri Hardman. I'm your ex-ho, and today's guest is Zoe Schwartz. So sit back, enjoy the episode, and remember the old saying, always a bridesmaid when you're a hoe.
So I'm Zoe Schwartz, and I grew up in Eugene, but I've been in Portland now for like going on 20 years, I think. And I use she, her pronouns. I think I'm straight, but I don't really know if I think being straight is a real thing, kind of. um, so mostly straight, I guess. Yeah, and also
Single?
yeah, oh yeah, I'm single. I mean, I'm dating, but I'm not married. Yeah, don't have
Okay.
any kids.
Okay, cool. The next thing we always do
Mhm.
is a game of marry, shag, kill.
Very shag. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so I usually try to like cater it to the person, but
Uh-huh.
I totally forgot to make one. So I had to just pull something out of my ass.
Okay, that's fine.
So I just went to Netflix and got the three first comedians that they offered me.
Okay.
So that's who we're doing. So hang on, let me go over there and grab it.
Hopefully I know who all of them are.
Well, I have their picture,
Oh,
so
okay, cool. That
you
helps, I
can at
guess.
least go by uh looks.
Okay.
All right, you can see that.
Yep.
Marry one, shag one, kill one. And we
Okay.
have, oh, I forgot to change one thing. It's going to say poetry edition or poet edition, but it's really comedian edition.
Okay,
So
got it. Got it. Okay.
Shane Gillis, John Mulaney, Tom Segura.
Hmm. Um, I'm not usually okay, let's think. I feel like this answer is gonna be weird. But I feel like oh no, like
I think this is a hard one.
yeah, they're all I know. I feel like personality wise, like Tom Segura probably has like he's kind of got he seems a little more my type, maybe. But and I think so probably I probably shag him, maybe. Yeah, I think I shag Tom Segura. And I think I'd probably marry John Mulaney and kill Shane Gillis.
There we go. Yeah. Yeah, I still can't figure out what I would do,
I
but
don't
because,
even know why, but yeah, that was just what I came
right.
up
Well, because
with.
here are my thoughts.
Yeah.
Like, who probably has the most money?
Oh yeah.
That's who I usually marry.
Who do you think?
Just,
Who would you think? John Mulaney or Tom Segura?
I don't know. I think it's probably close.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like John Mulaney has done more like producing and writing and stuff, so he might have that kind of money. But Tom Segura, I don't know.
Pretty
But I
upfront.
don't like the way he and his wife are. They have their podcast, and I wouldn't want to be married to him.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. I feel like he has like I'd shag him energy, but not yeah,
Yeah.
not a date
And
or
John
anything.
Mulaney, he's in recovery.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that could go either way. That can be a great thing or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know nothing about Shane Gillis. So,
I don't know anything about I don't really know a lot about any of them, but I think yeah, Shane Gillis just seems like I feel like I've seen some of his comedy. It seems like more creepy kind of.
yeah. All right. Okay. Or we could just kill them all. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean they're men, so you know.
Okay. Uh, when it comes to sex, would you rather watch or be watched?
Probably watch because I'm self-conscious and weird. But like in a perfect world, I think being watched would be hot. Just like if I looked exactly how I'd like to look, which is crappy that that gets in the way, but it's true, you know.
Okay. Um, when you were growing up,
Mhm.
what did your parents or whoever raised you call private parts?
I think we called them like the real names. Like my parents were pretty good about like talking to us like we were adults, you know. So I mean, not like in an inappropriate way, but like in the way of like let's just
Right. Yeah.
yeah. And my family's really open. Like my parents are hippies, so they were naked all the time, and yeah, it was
Uh,
like these were very like normal and acceptable, and
uh-huh.
we weren't weird about that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think we used like regular like real words. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Um, do you think they were okay, so your parents together now?
No, they split up when they were like when I was in like my early 20s.
Okay. And when they were together, like did you feel like they loved each other and all that or
Yeah, totally. Yeah, they were like they fought a lot, but they were also like openly, like when they were feeling affectionate, they were openly affectionate, and like, yeah, definitely. And like even semi-sexual, like playfully flirtatious with each other around. And they weren't like shy about talking about sex either. So
Yeah.
yeah, we all kind of have dirty sense of humor, so I think that helped.
Yeah.
Like that's where I got it from, probably, that I think sex is so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you think they were then good role models of what a relationship should be, or no?
I mean, I would say probably not, because I think maybe like they should have split up sooner, and there was probably a lot of like stuff that we were exposed to that wasn't great. But I do think, compared to a lot of other people's experiences, like there was a mixed in with the bad, and probably like the lack of boundaries that wasn't great to observe. But I do think like the openness that they had, I think that's a valuable thing that I learned from them, is I'm able to be really like authentic in relationships. And I'm not, a lot of people, it seems like a lot of people hide things or don't know how to talk about things. And I'm like the opposite. I'm like, I don't know how to not just say what I'm thinking or feeling. So I think they kind of pass that on to me. And I think that's good in relationships, to be open.
Right. And that was going to be my next question, was how did you think that affected you? So
yeah, I think it was a good thing. I think that's probably the best thing I got from their relationship, was just being open and direct.
yeah. Okay, now I want to talk about like a time when you were young, when it's what I call a sexual awakening, where you first realized in the world there's something going on that I didn't really fully realize before, whether it was feelings in your body or something you observed or heard. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, I have this like memory of like a friend where like we were, like, kids start to get like like noticing that certain things felt good. And I remember like being in her basement when her parents were around, like humping random things, and like, like we both were kind of having that, but we didn't know what it was, but we were like, this feels, like, so I remember like my mom picking me up and be like, my mom knew what I was doing. And none of it was that weird, but it was like you're feeling that pleasure for the first time, and it's not something anyone else has told you about yet. So, and I was pretty young, like I was probably like or 6 or something like that.
Did you feel like any shame or embarrassment about that, or was it just?
Yeah, I feel like a little bit, just in the sense of like, I discovered this thing that I don't really know what it means yet. And I like don't really know that, like, like I think we were hiding it a little bit, but I think I also kind of was like, well, it feels really good. So like, but yeah, I do think there was definitely a little bit of shame, just because I didn't know what it meant. And I was like, my body's doing this thing no one brought up to me yet, like, yeah, I was young, pretty young. I mean, maybe my mom would openly talk about stuff, but I didn't understand it enough yet.
Right. Yeah.
Didn't have a reference for it really,
Right. Do you have any celebrity crushes when you were younger?
Yeah, when I was really little, I was like, or not really little, but like young, I was really into Leonardo DiCaprio, because I was like obsessed with Titanic. I was like 13 when it came out, I think, or something. And so when it saw it like 2 or 3 times in the movie theater, yes, I thought he was really hot. And I had that like, that like weird lovesick experience that you first experienced when you were a kid. I remember I had like posters of him all over the wall. But then I have a joke about it. And once I got to like a teenager, I really liked Redman and Method Man, because Redman would openly talk about how he was into fat women, and there wasn't a lot of like fat positivity around at that time, and I was like, oh, why? And then I have a joke where I say like, I used my first celebrity crush involved a sexual fantasy of me having a threesome with Method Man and Redman. And then I say like, I mean, it's still in my top 3, So yeah, that's the direction I went once I like became
I think you told that when we were in Portland.
you probably heard it. Yeah.
When you did the Diary of an Ex-Ho live, which was a lot of fun.
That was super fun.
It was a very weird, it was a weird fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a weirdness to that day, but it was fun.
It was so fun. Yeah, I had a
good
time.
I gotta say, I really like how that audience just that could have been so awkward, and they just adapted to it, and they were like, "Okay, we're doing this," And they were really good.
Yeah, I love it when that happens, when it's like, oh, there's not a lot of people here, but then that energy is like still how you like it.
Right.
It's really nice. You're all super involved, and it's a good audience.
Okay, well, I know what your answer is, because you already kind of talked about this.
Sorry, I'm bad at that.
No, well, like you're good. That's good. That just shows that my questions are like making sense in order, kind of. I was gonna ask that is there any mainstream movie that had a scene that like really did it for you? So
Oh, I have something there.
Titanic was actually, the top two that people mention
Uh-huh.
are Titanic and Top Gun. Isn't that
Oh my
funny?
gosh, that's so funny. Okay, well, I have a pretty good one because I have older sisters. So like I have a sister that's like 10 years older, and and the other one's like 3 years older, and we were all obsessed with Dirty Dancing and Patrick Swayze. And there's like that one scene where they like almost show his dick, and I would remember like rewinding it because I really wanted. Yeah, so that was definitely. I remember like waking nobody else was around, and like I'm like, do they show it? Like
Maybe if I stand over on this side, I
Yeah,
can see it.
exactly. I remember I told somebody one time, like, I think I might have masturbated to the journey, and they were like, that's weird. I'm like, it's not that weird. It's her sexual awakening, so it makes sense.
Right, right.
Like, I mean, it's a little creepy now looking back, depending on how much older than he was supposed to be.
Right.
But yeah,
Um,
I really like that movie.
do you watch porn at all?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
What are your go-to categories that you're willing to admit?
I really like threesome porn with like two women. I think it's something I haven't done yet, but it's like something like in my self-actualized sexual self, I would imagine that would be really hot. Yeah, so I really like two women and a man. That's my
Mhm.
go-to.
What is your definition of amazing sex?
Um, I would say like well, first of all, obviously somebody who's like more concerned with getting you off than getting themselves off. That's always nice with a man, because I've had sex with men. And yeah, and I think also just like there being I like talking. Like I don't know how people have sex and don't talk. Like I
Like
think
talk about what you're doing or like dirty talk?
well, all of it. I just think like I'm just kind of in the same thing with like how I said about relationships or just in intimate situations with people. I'm really big into communication, which is probably not that surprising because I talk a lot. But yeah, so I think like talking about what you want to do. I also think like dirty talking to like lead up to sex is really hot. I think, and I do like dirty talking like during sex. And I think it also creates like opportunity for more like consent and for more people to get what they want, right? So it's like not only is it hot, but it's also like ideally like less harmful, there's less potential of harm or like one person not getting their needs met or getting left feeling weird or whatever, so yeah, I think dirty
So
talk
you're
is
not talking about laundry or stuff like that.
no, yeah, like fantasizing, like I like to have talk like about things we'd like to do that we haven't done yet or fantasizing, but I also like the build up of talking about things like before you do them, I think that's communication. Yeah, that's a big one for me.
How is your body image?
Well, it's a journey.
What?
It's been a journey. Yeah, I would say probably about as crappy as most women's, but I've done a lot of work on it. So I think it's interesting actually, like, because I've been fat most of my life and I've been bigger, I've been smaller, and I lost a bunch of weight at one point, and then it was like, this sucks. I don't want to be on a diet for the rest of my life. And I never really felt like, what I learned is like, it's not really about how you look, it's about how you feel, you know what I mean? And so I thought, oh, this will solve all my problems. Definitely lots of more people that weren't interested in me got interested in me. And that was a weird experience because you're like, this feels good. Also, this feels terrible because what was wrong with me before? Like that's a weird feeling. And then so I've done a lot of work to like unpack like where fat phobia comes from. And I think that's really like my main tool to like combat body hate is like reminding myself that like fat oppression or fat phobia is part of like other oppressive systems that I hurt people that are more marginalized than I am. And so that was a really big awakening for me, was to learn how all like like fat phobia is actually like rooted in white supremacy and like all that shit. And I was just like, oh, okay, no wonder this hurt so much, and no wonder it affected my self-image so much. But I would say something I've noticed is a lot of like women that are more conventionally beautiful or thin, naturally thin, have a lot of hangups about their body. And I almost feel like being fat like allowed me to like get over, because I was like, I'm never going to look like the ideal. And I think the closer you are to it, the almost like the more harmful that can be. And it's almost easier to like reject it and like carve your own path when you're not ever going to fit into that standard. So I think sometimes I'm more comfortable with my body and more comfortable with my sexuality than a lot of my friends who are like straight sized or whatever. And that's something I've discovered over time, just like talking to people. And I'm like, that's interesting, because I feel like I'm more comfortable with my sexuality because of that. And in a weird way, has been like a gift. So I would say it sucks, but my body image sucks, but but my brain about it, like I have a different way that I
Right.
conceptualize. Yeah. So I think that's helped a lot.
Now that's interesting. I tell people that when I was younger, like I always felt fat. I mean, I always was fat, but I always felt fat, except when I was having sex. I
Interesting.
never felt fat when I was having sex. I was just, you know.
Yeah. So you
Now,
kind of,
I mean, I'm not that way now, but that's how it went. Just like, I think
yeah.
that's why I was such a slut. It's like, oh, I'm beautiful and perfect
Yeah.
right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. Like a sense of freedom around your body that doesn't really exist in other spaces, but in a sexual
Right.
space, if the person's making you, obviously into you
Right.
and not making you feel judged, yeah, I could kind of let it all go out the window and just be totally in my body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. I'm glad you had that too.
Um, what's the best compliment you've ever gotten on your naked body?
Oh man, the best compliment I've ever gotten on my naked body. I don't know if it was like a specific thing that they say or said, but I feel like um I think honestly, like maybe it's not words. I've had someone like hold on to my fat, or I've had more than one person do that, and that was like, or just even like touch my stomach in ways that like there, and it just really was like healing. Like I think it is healing in a way that I needed, was like someone to see the parts of my body that I thought were like shameful or like not couldn't
Mm-hmm.
be attractive, and have someone like express like really either verbally or physically like a really strong attraction to that like specific part of, which stomach is like for everyone is often like a part that we feel the most shame about, right? Like as women. So I think that was probably the most impactful, is like someone physically expressing attraction to the parts that I've been
Right.
wishing to feel bad about,
Right. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Do you have any sexual regrets?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, nothing that I like spend a lot of time regretting, but just like, like just having sex with people that like I probably wasn't really that into because I didn't feel great about myself, or I thought I just needed to take whatever attention when I could get when I was younger, and then also like, yeah, definitely some like internet dates that I went on where like I ended up sleeping with the person like way quicker than I meant to, yeah, I definitely think that there's a couple of those where I'm just like, oh, and one time I went out with a dude who said he was in an open relationship, but like after a couple times, I was like, I think he's just cheating on his wife. And that felt pretty terrible to realize like afterwards that like I might have been participating in like adult, someone cheating on like
Right.
small kids and stuff, like it just felt
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
yeah. Nothing that I feel like personally too horrible about, but just stuff that I'm like, yeah, that's now I wouldn't have done that with the information or with,
Right.
the confidence or boundaries that I have now.
Have you ever had sex with someone just to make them go home?
I think so. Yeah, I've definitely had, or I've definitely like been in a situation where I was like we didn't really have a conversation about consent, and then it just started happening, like kind of like we were always doing something sexual, but it went far, to that point,
Right.
and I kind of just like did it because what am I gonna, like at that point you're like,
Right.
fuck, it's already happening, and I think that's, yeah, I think a lot of women have had that
Mm-hmm.
experience where we like didn't really want to, but we just did it because we didn't know how to say no,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, definitely,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's a thing I've heard a lot of women say.
Yeah. Do you have anything on your left on your sexual bucket list? Well, you kind of
Yeah,
said,
yeah, I think I do. I would like to. I think having a threesome would be hot, but I haven't done it yet. I mean, I had like a diet threesome when I was like a teenager, where it wasn't like I was a virgin. I think, and the people they were like had already been sexual with each other, and it was a friend of mine that was like really promiscuous and kind of like that was like her identity, and like a guy that she was maybe dating that we were both friends with. So I had like a mini threesome experience, but beyond that, no. But I think that's the thing that I'm like, I think that that would be hot, and I haven't done it yet. And sometimes I feel lame that I haven't felt comfortable enough to do it yet. Like, but what's interesting is that people always ask me like why, and I'm like, this is a weird thing. I'm more worried about what women think about my body than I am about what men think about my body, and that's where the hang up comes from. Because if I did one, I think I would want it with another woman because and yeah, and people are always like, really, and I'm like, yeah, it's this weird because we compare ourselves to each other,
right.
like we're conditioned to do that.
Right.
So, but yeah, that's the one that I'm like, actively fantasizing about with my partner, and like, talking about that, yeah, in the future. So
Yeah, I did a show the other night. It was pole dancers and comedians, and it was kind of like pole dancer, comedian.
uh-huh.
And so I don't normally go to strip clubs or see women naked except on movies.
Yeah, yeah.
And I found myself like really appreciating everybody, and everybody that they had was different. But I
Mhm.
also heard my brain doing that woman thing, like, her tits are too small, or, you know, stuff like that. And then I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, this is just in my brain. This isn't
Conditioning.
really me, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally. Yeah, no, it sucks. Yeah, or comparing yourself to, I hate that. Yeah, I'm like, why am I
right.
doing that? Like,
And then I'm like, yeah, why would my husband ever want to have sex with me when there are women like that walking around, you know, stuff
right,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah, that
Yeah,
conditioning.
still, you know, no matter how much better I think I'm doing with that kind of stuff, then stuff happens and I'm like, oh yeah, I still got work to do.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. I know.
Yeah,
I can relate. I can definitely relate. Sometimes that stuff I'll think or say, I'm like, that's so contradictory to like what I've,
right,
been working to believe and
right.
to represent. And it's so hard when your old conditioning is just like, nope, you still have these shitty views
Uh,
of women or yourself, or yeah, it's just
right.
funny. But it's
Yeah.
good that you're aware of it because then that allows you to,
Yeah, work on it.
yeah.
What's your Instagram?
Instagram. It's Zoflo, like Zoflo.
Okay. And this I think will come out like probably mid to end of April. Well, let me think. I've got one, two, three people ahead of you, so that's 3 weeks from now. So 3 to 4 weeks from probably 4 weeks from now. Do you have any shows that you want to promote? If you can,
3 to 4 weeks. So that would that would be like
well, here's
the
my calendar right here. I can tell you exactly what date it
oh
would
yeah.
be. Let's see. We've got Kate Lockhart, then Stephen, then Kyle, and then you. So it'll be about April 17th.
Okay, yeah, I have a show on the 18th, but it's in Brush Prairie, Washington, and I don't know the name of the show, but I think it's called
Where is
I think it's at a
where?
place called Brush Prairie Pub in Washington.
Oh,
Yeah.
where in Washington?
The place is called Brush Prairie, which I've never heard of. Have you? Have
You
you
don't
ever?
know where that is?
It's only like 20 minutes or something, so it's probably
Oh,
right near Vancouver is my guess. Because when they asked me to be on the show, I checked
okay.
to make sure. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's the only thing I have right after that. But then I think what else do I have? I think that's it for like that week, or
Okay.
maybe the rest of yeah, but I'm on you're talking about Kyle Adams. Is that one of the people that you're having on?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm on his show on the 7th of May, Sucker Punch. I'm on that show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool, cool. All right. Now is I don't know if I really warned you about this. Now it's just I want you to tell me a story
Oh yeah.
about sex, just anything that's entertaining or in any sort of way. Just go
Yeah.
ahead.
I have a couple. I was trying to think of like the thing about me is like anything remarkable is usually like funny or embarrassing. So but there's one that's like not I guess it's not exactly about like sex. Like I didn't have sex with the person, but I like hooked like I made out with the person and like messed around with them. One time I was in Belize with a friend, and it was like I was going through like I'd just gone through a really shitty breakup, and I went, and I don't know if you know this, but in Belize they love fat women, which my sister told me. She's like, you really need to travel somewhere where they love fat women because it'll really be good for it. And so I did. I went with my gorgeous friend who's like a model, like a model status, and so
Right.
every we went, she was getting all the attention because she's just stunning. And then we went there, and it was like they didn't give a shit about her, and they were obsessed with me. It was like the best thing. He was like yelling at me. I was walking down the street, and so we were in a bar one night, and it was like like had sand up for the ground, like it was that small, it was a key
Uh-huh.
in Belize, and I ended up like flirting with the bouncer dude, and like ended up like going off with him and like making out and like messing around on this dock. My friend was like encouraging me to do it because I was probably being a grump the whole trip, and she wanted me to like loosen up.
Right.
I was like, can I go? And she was like, just go. I was like, I can't tell. I'm drunk. I don't know if he's like super, whatever. She was like, just go for it. I was like, okay. And then he had asked me if I wanted to go. And we like messed around a little bit. And I remember being kind of like, okay, I'm too drunk for this, but whatever. He was like, let's go swimming the next day. And I was like, sure, whatever. Like, just get me back to my room. So I got back there, and then it's the worst. In the morning, my friend got up before me, and like the toilet and the shower clogged. And I was like sick because I had drank too much the night before. And then he knocked on the door. And my friend was like, oh, your friend's, that guy's here. Also, he looks way older. And we were like 29. I'm like 40 now. Almost.
Uh-huh.
He's like, he looks way older than he looked last night. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like he has gray beard hair. And we thought that was like, oh, you're so old, because we were
Right.
young, Anyway, so I ended up going to the door, like so gross. And he was like, I think he kissed me and I had like just puked or something terrible like that. And she made fun of me like the rest of the trip about it. And then I ended up going and like meeting a cuter guy. So mean. And because it was such a small island, we ended up going into his bar. And then he was all like mad in the corner, like, you know. So that one's not exactly about sex, but it was pretty funny. Like my friend was like, I was so embarrassed. I have another shorter one if you want another one, but
yeah, sure.
I had another one where when I first moved back up to Portland, it was the first time I'd ever internet dated, and my sister was married, so she was like, "Oh, let's get you on Tinder. I want to live vicariously through you," you know. And I was like, "Okay, whatever." So I went out with this guy, and I ended up bringing him back to her house, and I had not really experienced any of this whole like ass eating thing that everybody's into now yet, because it's like 10 years ago. And he like bent me over the bed, and I was like, oh, he's gonna go down on me from the back, and he just started going down, like he just ate my ass, and I was like, what the fuck is happening? Like, and I remember the next day, I didn't want to tell my sister because I thought she'd be mad at me that I brought some dude back to her basement, you know, because there's like an apartment. And so then it like came out later, like a couple nights later, when we were out with some friends, and she was like, what? You had sex with that guy? And I was like, well, I didn't want to tell you. I thought you'd be mad. She's like, no, Zoe, I'm not mad. I just need you to tell me because I need to live vicariously through you. And I ended up hooking up with him a couple more, you know, maybe a handful of times more. And that was just really his thing. He was really into it.
That's funny.
Yeah. He had a girlfriend, and I asked him, I was like, so what percentage of like anal sex do you have to regular sex? And he was like, it's like 60-40, like 60 anal, 40 regular. And I was like, I was really impressed with that. I was like, wow, I didn't I know now that lots of people are into that. But yeah, that was so anyway, that was pretty funny.
That's
so
funny.
I would talk too about how I got my ass eaten on my first Tinder date. You know what it was?
I remember the first time a guy wanted me to do that to him. And it was like, oh God, what it was probably 1981 or 82.
Yeah, nobody was talking about it.
I was like, what, 20, 21? And I never heard anyone, oh, well, maybe I had, because it was like called around the world back then, but I never knew anyone that did it or anything.
Yeah, people just talked about it.
And it's just this big, burly, hairy guy, you know, and then he wanted that. And to me, that just seemed like the weirdest fuck. I mean, I did it, but, you know.
I always say, like, I just don't trust men men aren't like clean enough, straight men specifically.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
That's always my argument, is like, I don't know if you worked well enough. I don't know. I feel like, yeah, men are, it's like, do you have the right to be asking for that? Have you prepared correctly?
Well, there's a lady on TikTok that does like waxing and stuff. Mm-hmm. And she says a lot of people come in there with poop in their butt, and she has to make them go clean it. So
I had a friend that was an esthetician too a long time ago, tell me the same thing. She's like, there's this woman that would like go to work all day, ride her bike here, and then just cut. And I'm like, I wouldn't be fresh at that point. Like when I got waxed, I would like take a shower and try not even to like
obsessively.
Yeah. I was trying to be like right out of the shower. Yeah, no, I totally heard. I could never be an esthetician. I couldn't do that.
Yeah. Well, that's a good way to end the podcast, talking about dirty crotches and butts. Yeah. All right. Well, it's great talking to you as always. I'm sure we'll be working together again soon.
Yeah. Thank you, Cheri. I really appreciate it.
Have a great day. It was fun.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me on. Take care.